Okay, welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to Graylog's What's New in version 6.0. I'm Jeff Darrington, the Director of Technical Marketing, and with me, if you didn't see us at RSA, is our VP of Product Engineering, Seth Goldhammer. Welcome, Seth.
Hey, welcome everyone. How is everyone doing today?
Go ahead and use the chat anytime throughout the session. Any feedback, any questions, please go ahead and keep throwing those in the chat window. We'll definitely get into the questions. If it's very intriguing, we could bring it up during the session if we're in the middle of something, but we'd like to take this opportunity to get deep into the product so you can actually see the things we want to show you. And as things move along, please don't hesitate to keep asking the questions, and we'll dive into those right away at the end. With that, Seth, I'm going to hand it off to you. You've got some slides here and some interesting information we want to bring forth, so I will let you take it from here.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks very much. Yeah, the 6.0 release started really 6 months ago, and you've seen through 5.1, 5.2, 6.0, and then 6.1 later this year, we've really standardized around that 6-month release cadence. It gives you an opportunity to help kind of plan around and understand, even though we have patch releases, we do sneak in, features every now and then into our patch releases on a monthly basis. We also have our Illuminate content that comes out really every 2 months. That might move to a monthly cadence as well. And then our major releases every 6 months in this kind of spring, fall schedule. Throughout 2024, we've had a focus in 3 specific areas. So 6.0, 6, and then 6.1, you'll see later this year. We're really focused around how do we allow just the data management, all the underlying storage that you're using, the administrative configurations that you're leveraging to tweak and tune Graylog. We're really focusing around how we provide you just even more flexibility. How do we get to just a reduced cost of ownership? Looking for opportunities where even as we're adding new features, we're removing administrative overhead, so in redundant tasks. The second is, with our Illuminate content, how do we continue to provide even more curated content from our security content teams? And how do we productize that in ways that allow you to just really purpose Graylog very quickly to meet to your use cases? And then you'll see through, and we'll get to live product day, we'll actually show a demonstration of these 6.0 features. How are we guiding the analyst workflow? As Graylog's finding concerning issues that are happening within your environment, how do we help guide you to resolve that as fast, as efficiently as possible? So we'll show a number of these capabilities in the 6.0 release that meet into all 3 of these pillars. Let me introduce the features a little bit in slideware before we get into the live product. And kind of think about this from the analyst perspective and from the administrative perspective. So what's in it for the analyst? If I put myself in the shoes of someone who's using Graylog, I kind of think of, well, how do I even get started? What do I do to help Graylog meet to my use cases? Then there's, all right, now what do I do on a daily basis? And then, as mentioned earlier, as Graylog's now finding interesting things, how do I resolve these interesting things very, very efficiently? And so how do I get started? I mentioned Graylog Illuminate in Graylog Spotlight content. Hey, Jeff, what if you were to define kind of Illuminate and Spotlight for our users, what would you describe Illuminate and Spotlight as?
For me, Illuminate and Spotlight is typically when you are looking at all your log sources that you might have in your environment or your organization, being able to have those sources brought into Graylog, have them parsed, have them built into dashboards, and have content right out of the box. So that way you're hitting the ground running as soon as you get Graylog up and installed, primarily with, of course, the Enterprise and Security Edition licenses. That's the primary focus of Illuminate. And the nice thing about Illuminate is it's not a bundled, it's not a package that you buy from a bouquet of or a buffet of things. We develop our Illuminate content in such a way that if you are an enterprise customer and new Illuminate content comes down the pipe, you automatically get that content. It's not a different add-on that you're going to purchase or other. It's all provided with that license. So as new content becomes available, I'll let you talk more about the enhanced SOC Prime stuff, Seth, but that's the big thing with Illuminate is as more content is provided, it becomes part of your license automatically. And that's a big win for a lot of customers. They see that constant improvement and constant new additions, and they get it automatically.
Absolutely. And yeah, to piggyback off what you said, so SOC Prime they're a threat detection engineering company. So they're focused on following the latest threat actors, what their tactics and techniques are, and they're building threat detection content to recognize those tactics when they occur within the environment, generally using Sigma rules to do that. Well, we partnered with SOC Prime, and just as Jeff said, instead of having you to go to SOC Prime, buy your own license, look through that content and have to try to decide, well, is this content applicable to me or not? What we've done is our security content teams working with SOC Prime, where we can actually bring in that Sigma rule content into our Illuminate and Spotlight content. And so by virtue of you enabling, we have a new Illuminate pack for recognizing user compromise. So we're looking at specific types of activities that could present evidence that a user account has been taken over or has been compromised by a threat actor. So that's a mix of content that our team has created, and it's a mix of SOC Prime's content that they've developed. We packaged all of that through our Illuminate feed. So you don't need a separate SOC Prime license. You can just look through Graylog's Illuminate content and decide what aligns to your use case. And you'll see more examples of where we're using SOC Prime's content in addition to our content. And our content's not just Sigma rules, right? It's dashboards and dashboard widgets. It's saved searches, other event definitions using aggregation rules, et cetera. So you're getting kind of the culmination of all that content to meet to your use case. In the demo today, you're going to see a lot on, all right, so as you've brought in Illuminate content, mixed in with SOC Prime's content, interesting things are being observed in your environment. You're going to see through the demonstration today a lot on how to use this new security layout. It's a new perspective to help you really focus on that workflow of triaging alerts, getting into investigations if you do need to tune and update security content or even anomaly detections that you have enabled within Graylog, have the opportunity to be able to do that. You'll see in the demo how we can create our own alert and investigation dashboards using customizable widgets. And we'll show you in the demo a new risk-based scoring. So as alerts are being created, how we're marrying the scenario that's being captured along with environmental factors such as who's the user or what device was targeted by that particular incident. So you'll see this in the demo. And so now we help you focus on, all right, these are the alerts, or this is an investigation I should be working on today. I've got to focus, how do I get through that investigation? One of the things you'll see in our Illuminate content is remediation steps. So with our remediation steps, we're providing you more context around, well, what was captured in this particular scenario? What was the criteria of the alert looking for beyond just the alert definition itself? And so with that context, we also provide, hey, here's how to actually investigate this. I would look at this type of content. I would do a search for this type of information. This is how I can understand it's not a false positive versus a true positive in my environment. So you'll see there's a lot of context to help whether you're a junior analyst to a senior analyst get to a set of tasks that can allow you to resolve that issue more efficiently, more quickly. As you're adding evidence into an investigation, we're automatically extrapolating out the assets. Who are the users? What are the systems? What are the machines that have been captured in this investigation? So you just have that quick understanding of the scope and the impact. And, Jeff, you operated in the SOC. There's a lot of cutting and pasting that happen in security operations. Cutting out the username, the IP address, and the host name. So we're trying to remove all of that kind of cutting and pasting using Notepad on the side, where you can just have this quick view of all the assets that are in scope for this particular investigation.
Yeah, I do recall it. Excel spreadsheet hell, going and getting firewall logs and pulling them in with individual Windows logs and trying to correlate, oh, look, the time date stamps are off on this product versus that product. So yeah, it's definitely this presents a really nice buttoned up way of getting the evidence together in a much quicker fashion and making sense of it.
Absolutely. And through those investigations, as you're opening, as alerts are being fired, as you're opening these alerts, as you're adding evidence into investigation, you can think about some key milestones that are occurring during the way. We're automatically capturing these key milestones, and we're measuring the distance, the time between these milestones, just so you have an understanding of how efficiently you are operating, and are there opportunities to perhaps in terms of your alerts, can you triage more quickly, or what's slowing you down? Are there, can we tune alerts? You'll see that one of the status of alerts investigations is it was a false positive. So is that highlighting a particular analytic technique that is generating too many false positives that needs tuning? So giving you more visibility to that as well. So you're going to see a lot of this in the demonstration that's coming up. So I'll kind of quickly wrap up this slide. And then on the data management side, we're not going to show this as much in the demo. So I got you some nice screenshots here instead. But there's some really exciting things that we're doing on the data management side. And I'll start with probably the headline here, which is data tiering. This warm tier, if you think about Graylog previously, if you're a Graylog open user, then you have one tier, which is the ability to bring in all data into this hot indexed tier. That's generally going to be on solid state drives to give you the performance you need for that hot indexed data to get performance search results. If you're an enterprise customer, previous to 6.0, you've had the opportunity to not just have a hot tier, but then you could also enable archives. So archives allows you, it's a flat file proprietary database. You could move that data into cold storage, cheap storage. However, you did have to replay that data back in order for that to be reprocessed, indexed, so that becomes visible, searchable again in Graylog. What the warm tier provides, which I'm really excited about, is it couples with the hot tier. So hot tier ages out to the warm tier, sort of like you see in this graphic here. That warm tier does not require solid state drives. You can use cloud storage like S3. You can use your own spinning disk if you have your own infrastructure. So you have just as much flexibility now on that warm tier that you did with the cold tier. The difference is that with that warm tier, we are searching across hot and warm tiers concurrently, meaning that if I use a time range that is spread across both hot and warm tiers, Graylog goes, and you don't have to specify looking hot versus warm. We're going to go bring that data back across the date range that you've provided, wherever that data lives. So think about now the opportunities you have. If I've been 90 days hot, but most, 80% of my searches are within the last week, so maybe the last 10 days, I have an opportunity now. Maybe it makes sense to reduce my hot tier to 10 days. So think about the cost savings on the storage side. If I only have 10 days in solid state drives versus 90 days, for that price point, instead of going 10 days to 90, maybe I'm going to go 10 days to 150, right? You think about the cost difference between solid state drives versus other storage options you have on that warm tier. And what's crazy, Jeff, is the performance we're seeing is, instead of searches coming back in seconds, in that warm tier, we're seeing data come back in tens of seconds. So we're not talking this huge order of magnitude. I mean, I remember the days of running a search, going to get a cup of coffee and coming back. It's nothing like that. So we're seeing,
Exactly.
really nice performance in that warm tier.
There is a question here I'm going to bring up now, Seth, regarding the data tiering. Two questions here, one from Frank, one from Patrick. Could you clarify how much this information is accessible to users in Graylog Open, or warm tiers available in Open or only paid? So it's a good time to probably answer.
The warm tier is available to enterprise and to security customers. So the warm tier is a commercial license version. So the open users still have access to that hot tier, to get highly indexed data, highly responsive searches with the open tier. With enterprise and with security, you do then gain the options of the warm tier and with archiving. If you do want to archive, we have customers that have compliance mandates for 7 years of data, crazy long retention times, and that's where that archived format provides a great opportunity to just ship off into Glacier, if you will, very cheap storage for those long periods of time. The warm tier provides you also an extended period of time that's now searchable directly from the regular search experience you have with Graylog. Yeah, good question. Did I answer both questions there, Jeff?
Yeah, I think so. It was good.
All right, so very quickly, let's talk about index field type profiles. So previously in the product, you could set on each pipeline an index field type. What that meant was, hey, this particular field is an IP address. So let's set that as an IP address. I don't want to search for that field as a string or as an integer, because as we know, IP addresses have their own kind of quirky qualities, octets, et cetera. So provides the appropriate searching into that field and how that field gets indexed for search. Well, if you had multiple pipelines as you scaled Graylog out, that would require you to set those index field type matches on a per pipeline basis. Well, what we've done, that doesn't make any sense. Let's just save that as a profile. So now you can, all of those index field type matches you've done, you can save that as a profile. You can reuse those profiles with additional pipelines as you scale out. So you can have consistency across pipelines where that's appropriate, and you don't have to redo that work that you've done previously. So that's a big time savings for our larger customers, and that is an enterprise feature. And then lastly, archive performance, where you have multiple shards that you've created for your clusters. We saw an opportunity to now multi-thread archive writing. So as we're writing out our archives, take advantage of just more processing capacity to be able to do that, so that we're just more efficiently being able to write out those archives with the processing capacity that's available. Well, we've gone through kind of in name these new features for 6.0 a lot, both for the analyst and for the admin. I think now it just makes sense. Let's just jump into the live product. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I think we should. I think there's a few people on the call would love to see it.
Well, if you're not new to Graylog, Jeff, what's the first thing you notice logging into 6.0 for the first time?
Well, if you didn't run beta and you didn't see any of the new videos you've got out, obviously the color scheme has changed across the product.
Yeah, we have introduced a new color scheme that's both light and dark mode, just looking for opportunities. How do we present information in a way that's meaningful? Colors mean something, and not to suggest anything was wrong with the previous colors, but we had a lot of red, a lot of striking red in our color. And red means generally something's bad. And so what we've done is really looked at a color motif where colors like yellows and reds really pop out, where there is a warning, where there is a concern, that helps help draw you to that attention. So you'll see that throughout the product. We're not done with our UI, color changes. We see more opportunities, maybe even different fonts, where it's appropriate, to make sure we're presenting information in a highly consumable fashion for everyone involved. That's exactly right. So the colors are fun. They do match. If you've been to our website, you'll see that even our branding, our colors on our website, we've made a lot of changes at the beginning of the month. All right. Now, I'm not going to focus on the data management side as much, but let's go to the analyst experience. And for the analyst experience, I'm going to shift to our new security perspective. So this is, you notice here what happened, Jeff, the top navigation completely changed. So instead of getting this like sidebar of like security activities and kind of collapsed and crowded the view, we've really opened it up where if I'm not an administrator, kind of removed a lot of those administrative functions off of my view and really focused on that analyst workflow. Here I can see a dashboard that Graylog provided of the latest events, investigations that have been opened, and some of the other kind of similar similar boards that you've seen in our general perspective to help you, again, kind of help start your day. Now, I created a custom dashboard that I kind of want to show off because I like it, and it shows off some of our new widgets here. So I'm going to go to this Analyst start dashboard that I've created. Let me blow this out to the last 24 hours. Well, I've got a couple new widgets here. Do you know which widgets I've added to this view, Jeff?
Yeah, you've got your open investigations. That's great.
Yeah, so exactly. We've got two new widgets here for investigations and for events. And the way I'm using that is on the left side, I've got events, but I've actually filtered it to just the alert. So I can actually use a filter on type, whether that's event or alert, to help me understand. In this case, I want to look at, hey, in the last 24 hours, what are new alerts? And I've sorted that by our new risk score. So I can get kind of those high risk activities that are more concerning based on the scenario that's being captured, based on the asset, the user or the instance that it's targeted. I have an ability for those to rise to the top. So rather than working by time, what was the newest alert or the oldest alert, I'm working by risk. The opposite though, on the investigation side, I'm now, here I filter to just my investigations, and I've sorted that by time because I want to make sure my oldest investigations are getting completed before I move on to new things. So I have an opportunity to mix and match how I want this to be presented, how I've filtered and how I've sorted this information. And I can even mix and match that again with just other dashboard widgets. So I want to create aggregation widgets or log message views, etc. These are just standard widgets that I can add to any dashboard. And it looks like, ooh, I do have some new alerts that look concerning. This Sigma rule, this is actually coming from our new Illuminate pack focused on looking at activities for potential user compromise. So I'm concerned about that. I can click on this just like if I was on the security events page. Let's get more details about this page. The first thing you'll see here are remediation steps. Well, that's interesting. I now have a full set of information to help understand, well, what was this particular activity looking for beyond just the event definition itself? And I get a set of actions. What should I go do to help investigate this particular thing? Well, that's really interesting. I also have a new status here on the alert. So I can let other analysts know if I'm in a team setting. All right, I'm investigating this, yeah. And I can now add this into an investigation. Let's create a new one. It was a logon that was created by a suspicious process. And I can assign that to teams. I can assign that to individuals. I'll assign that to me.
That's great. Thanks for not assigning that to me. I appreciate that, Seth.
Maybe next time. All right, let me add that in. And we're off to the races. Well, the first thing it says is review the audit logs surrounding this login attempt. All right, so, well, with Graylog, we've had an existing capability. We can replay the search, get right into the underlying logs. I can see there's a Windows event that occurred here that was that suspicious process. I'm going to add this into my investigation as I'm kind of rolling along here. But again, the remediation step said to look at the surrounding messages. Well, that's great because I actually have a feature that Graylog's provided to me to show the surrounding features. So let's just look at the 5 minutes around this particular activity. Let's get more context about when this process was generated. And so here's that process that kicked off, and I'm now looking before what happened was an Excel was running as out of Explorer. So I've got an Excel process and I've got a PowerShell process that ran out of that, which was the logon. All right. Well, Jeff, what is the first thing you see here that makes your hair tingle?
Well, it's always PowerShell, and obviously
PowerShell.
and attaching these to the investigation is definitely something I'd be doing right away.
Yep. So we know we have a concerning issue here coming out of Excel from obviously this PowerShell running as administrator. That's highly suspicious, highly concerning. I still don't really. I mean, I know it's Excel and I know it's PowerShell here. I'm assuming there is an Excel file. Now I could probably dig into this, start looking for files. I'm going to show you a shortcut here, and this isn't new to 6.0, but it's a great feature up here, which is called fields. If I click on fields, I can quickly build a widget on any of these fields. Is file name populated from our Illuminate parsing anywhere on these fields? So this is a feature anyone can use, open to enterprise to security. So I'm going to show the top values for file name. And so file name was in one of our logs here for staff vacations. So kind of eliminate some of the work here to dig into the logs just by kind of bringing this up as a dashboard widget. And now I have the standard, what can I do with any of our dashboard widgets? I can have additional actions here. What I want to do is I just want the staff vacations, where else does this thing show up? So I could add this to a query. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just blow this away. I'm going to blow off the stream here. I'm going to do just unstructured search on staff vacations. Where does this thing show up? And if I look down at my search results, what I'm seeing is I've got a firewall log and I've got an email log. All right, I think I know what's happened here, Jeff. Have you pieced it together as well?
I don't like those links clicked in emails or files open in emails that you shouldn't be opening. That's what it's
Yeah, it looks like our friend Bob here, unfortunately, it looked like he was phished. So I can see the email that came in to Bob, and then I can see a firewall, allowed access, again, pull down that file staff vacations. So yeah, it looks like it looks like Bob was phished with looks like a SharePoint site. So maybe an email pretending to be an internal SharePoint site, and Bob clicked the link. Can't necessarily fault Bob for that, but certainly means we need to do more user awareness on clicking links in our emails. And I think I have enough information now to kind of close out this investigation. When I go to investigations, I can see, oh, look, these are our timelines of how long are we, triaging alerts? How long are things staying in our environment before we're actually able to take an action, our time to detect, our time to respond, et cetera. And I can now go to our concerning process investigation. Oh, here are those assets. We talked about that earlier. I know Bob's workstation can get more details on that. Bob himself, more information on that. We're going to go clean Bob's workstation out from being compromised. We're going to close out this investigation with any additional notes we might want to add.
major advantage here with the assets. If you've loaded your critical assets into Graylog with your PC names, your email addresses, usernames, MAC addresses, IP addresses, if this person did pivot and end up getting to multiple hosts, we do augment the logs with the lookups. So here you would see additional hosts that were involved with the particular user at hand. So it's a great way to have a full scope of what's going on with this particular event and how many things it might have touched or been involved with once things have kicked off. So it's nice to have this in this investigation screen.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Jeff, for that additional color. I know we're right at the top of our 30 minutes. Any questions we can get to before we wrap this up? And if you are interested, here's where you find Graylog 6.0. And if we don't get to your question, please, you can always reach out to Jeff and I in our community.
Absolutely. I'll jump in. We do have quite a few here, so I'll just, here's a long one from Leaf here. We're using Microsoft Sentinel for alerting, but we want a cheaper solution for long-term log storage. Is there some getting started with mixed use cases for this scenario? Example, all logs go to Graylog, then we filter and then send security and identifying logs into Sentinel. So that's a big question.
Yes, big question. So immediately what comes to mind is that warm tier that we just spoke about earlier, where certainly have an opportunity very cost efficiently to store log data in Graylog. And we have an existing capability called outputs, where you can then, for all that data that's coming into Graylog, then set policies on what data you want to send out to another analytics solution like Sentinel or other products.
Awesome. There's a couple questions here we answered earlier. Good question here. How do I integrate SaaS application security logs into Graylog? I can help answer that one. That can get interesting based on the application and how you access the logs. So if it's a cloud-based SaaS service versus a prem-based, that's a really tough question to fully answer here on this call. It's always doable. There's always a way, whether it's through an API call, whether it's loading up software on a given cloud instance and punching the logs outbound to Graylog. It's a tricky question, not knowing what the SaaS application is, but there is always a way to get logs shipped, whether it be a shipper or an API connection. So hopefully that does kind of answer a question a little bit. It's hard to get super detailed in a question like that here on this call, but it's definitely something doable. Another one, assets, is that available for Graylog Open? Seth, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, good question. Assets is a security specific feature. It allows you to be able to pull down information from a directory service, the LDAP, Active Directory, where we actually compile, the users, the systems from those directory services, where we can then match that against log data. The great thing about that is if you think about logs, myself, I might be represented in multiple ways in log data. Sometimes it's my email address, sometimes it's a username, sometimes it's a domain/user. What assets allow you to do is, regardless of how I'm represented in log data, we're then matching that to the asset of Ceph. So we can then do lookups, do searches on Ceph and see all of that activity, or do our analytics event definitions on that, so that we're matching across, regardless of how the log is representing that particular identity.
So got a couple
similar with systems, with IP addresses, MAC addresses, host names, etc.
Awesome. We've got a couple, 3 or 4 short ones here. I think we should be able to have some time here to get through. If I'm using Enterprise currently and I don't have a security license, can you do a trial of Graylog security? So that
absolutely.
Yeah.
The quick answer is yes. The CSM you're working with, that's your customer service manager. They would be happy to be able to set up a temporary license for security, so you can see that. Or if you just want to get a demo of it from one of our sales engineers, absolutely, we would be happy to help set that up.
Another question here: are there any other features that you've not covered in the demo that are in version 6 that have been added potentially to Open Edition or anything like that? There's one we didn't cover, which I really enjoy. Actually, when we were in beta, I was using it. We added a new custom HTTP web notification that's available to anyone. I actually used it because I wanted to send my alerts in my home lab to push over. So you can build a JSON message file with all the appropriate fields that you want to have. Allows you to modify your output to do a put get and customize it explicitly. You can use that for many custom integrations into ticketing systems directly, all kinds of things like Salesforce. There's a lot of things you can do to send notifications. So that's one of the, for me, that's one of the big ones, the little teasers that I implemented right away, because I wanted to have some of my home lab light up a bunch of bells and whistles, lighting up LED lights.
That's available in Open too, is that correct, Jeff?
It is, yeah. We made the same change on the input as well. So the HTTP API input, you'll see if you go into version 6 now, we have the option now for get put in there as well. Another question here: are you looking at more changes related to workflow in the future for analyst workflows?
Yeah, we're certainly going to continue to look at that. Our work there is not done by any means, although I'm certainly proud of what we were able to bring to our users in 6.0. In fact, this is a little bit behind the scenes, but I think it's worth talking about. We renamed some of our teams, where we used to have a search team. They've been renamed to the analyst experience. We've renamed a security team to threat intelligence incident response. And the goal is that we're really trying to think about, who's that person in the chair at the end of the day? What are they trying to accomplish? We're really focused on, what you're trying to achieve and how our solution is best equipped to enable you to achieve that.
A good question here, somewhat along those lines. How often do you think you'll be getting updates built within Illuminate and the SOC Prime Sigma rules for detections? What kind of cadence?
Yeah, I'll answer the correct answer, I guess, is, or at least the safe answer is every 2 months. We're actually looking at monthly. So we're going to look to increase that cadence right now. So you'll notice that we had a release at the beginning of, or at the end of April. We'll have a release that's going to come out at the very beginning of June. And so we have been on a 2-month kind of release cadence. And we're looking at, can we move that to monthly, and maybe down the road that even gets even more frequent.
Great. I think looks like the last question here. It's more of a technical one. What are the requirements for installation version 6 that are different than 5.2? For example, if I wanted to go into enterprise, probably one of the biggest changes with the data tiering and some of the functionality is you would want to plan on upgrading OpenSearch to version 2.12. MongoDB requirements have pretty much stayed the same, 5 and 6. I can't remember if we said 7 is now supported or not, Seth. That I might need to take that back to the docs. I can't remember. But 5 and 6 are in there, and of course, Graylog version 6. So that's the short answer. To take advantage of all the newer features and security, you'll want to plan for your upgrade to OpenSearch 2.12. As it sits, it looks like we don't have any other questions. We went a little bit, hold on here 1 second. Do you have regular ongoing community meetings? That's something we haven't done in a little while. We're looking at bringing that back and making sure we can get that going. So if you haven't joined the community, there's a ton of activity in community.graylog.org. I highly suggest anyone using Graylog, whether you're using Open or you're looking at Graylog, you can ask questions there, open in there. Everyone is in there willing to help and answer questions. So if you have questions specific to Graylog and maybe you've never used Graylog, definitely ask questions in the community. You'll get answers. Indicate where you're coming from as far as what your needs are, and you'll get answers in there. And if you want to get a little deeper, obviously you can come into Graylog and work with some of our solution engineers in understanding some of your use cases. And if there's an opportunity that Graylog can help you out, we'd definitely like to get together with you and think things forward with you. Other than that,
it's never too late to plug Graylog Go. Graylog Go is our once a year. We do have a full, it's a virtual event, for anyone wherever they live to be able to participate. It's a 2-3 day event. It's been occurring in October. Final dates of Graylog Go 2024 are soon to come out in that October timeframe. So more on that, but that will be another opportunity to be able to engage with other Graylog users, both on the open and on the commercial side, where we'll have breakouts with individual sessions led by both users and Graylog employees, et cetera, on kind of best uses or best practices, et cetera.
Excellent. I think that covers off everything for us today. Thanks for joining us all today. Thanks, Seth, for the awesome demo and going through the details of what we've got here in version 6. Get in contact with us if you want to ask more questions. If you didn't make it today, hopefully you can get the playback and ask questions throughout that area there. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. And as always, happy logging with Graylog and have a great day. Thanks. We'll see you soon.